Knicks and Celtics in Boston. Monica, you were there. And the domination of the Celtics, quick, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, this happened quickly and early in this one. And it wasn't just Tatum. I mean, the Celtics got to whatever it is that they wanted, whether it was threes, whether it was getting to the paint. The ball was moving around the perimeter, snap, crackle, pop, and basket.
Celtics have had 20-point leads in all 3 games against the Knicks this year. Fourth quarter, it's sort of a game. It was an 8-point game. That's Kristaps Porzingis with the dunk. Then it's Karl Anthony Towns on the other end, stuffed, and he seems to hurt the knee, but he would return to the game. Looks like he's okay. But this one, Legs, was all about the Celtics. Tatum would score 25.
Yeah, they look laser focused right now, and they came out that way. The Knicks made their big run in the third quarter with Towns and Brunson, but once Boston recalibrated, they again separated from them.
They couldn't have looked possibly better. And where does that leave us? Well, Kendrick Perkins yesterday on Countdown said this.
And your 2025 NBA champions are the Boston Celtics.
You're calling it now.
Okay.
All right, well, let's just go home.
February 23rd.
OKC is not beating them. The Nuggets
Eastern.
are not beating them. The Cavs are not beating them. The Knicks damn sure are not beating them. And the Milwaukee Bucks are not beating the Boston Celtics. When they want to turn it up another level defensively, it's no team, not the Knicks and nobody else around the league, that's going to challenge them.
Kendrick Perkins just sent rings to Boston. Tim Legler, are you on board?
Not to that extent. Come on. Look, I understand what he's saying, the way Boston looks right now. And I think we all were kind of expecting this at some point. You weren't going to be as hungry at the start of the year. They just weren't. They just won a championship. They finally broke through. But they're there now. But to say that teams like Oklahoma City and Cleveland aren't capable of beating the Boston Celtics, I think, to me, I wouldn't take it that far. I think they both are. But right now, what Boston is reminding you of is this. They have the most versatility in their starting lineup of any team in the NBA. And that's really what differentiates them from everybody else. When you've got 5 different guys that not only can beat you off the dribble, can beat you with the catch and shoot 3, but they also impact the game on the other end of the floor individually and collectively, they're the only team that really has that in their starting lineup. That's why I think Perk feels the way he does, and the Boston Celtics are reminding people right now on a nightly basis what they were a year ago.
Because I'm me, I'm going to make a golf analogy. Anyone can win any week on the PGA Tour, but there's usually someone who, if they play their best, no one can beat them. If Scottie Scheffler plays his best, no one's going to beat him. That's the way I see the Celtics. If the Celtics play their best, nobody's going to beat him, and that is not disrespecting anyone. The Cavaliers are unbelievable, and let's not even deal with the West yet, OKC. If the Celtics play their best, nobody beats them.
Yes, and continuity is a big part of that because of what they have. Talking with Hembo before the show, and he said something that really stuck out to me, which is 99% of their minutes are players that were on last year's team.
That part.
Playing for a championship. You have that. And he also had a really good line I got to credit him for. They can play together blindfolded at this point. That's just how much continuity they have, and you can see it. And now the only thing in my mind that can stop them is health, because they are fully healthy right now. Derek White was going through some stuff earlier in the season. They struggled. Once he gets his game going, which he has, they are on a different level. And that's what they are right now as they get ready for a back-to-back for the first time since 1960.
McNutt, you've got tape.
Oh, let's do the tape.
Yes.
I do have tape.
Yeah.
This to me is about how well this offense works. So everything that we just started talking about, right? The way that they move the basketball, they barely have to dribble, in fact, in this first play. So this was early in the ballgame. You can count the passes, but we can also count the dribbles. That was 1 by Derek White in the corner. I think Jaylen Brown's going to give you 3 here, or 2. So that's 3 total. The ball's just moving. And this is actually a good defensive possession by the Knicks in terms of contesting, and still, they're knocking down threes at a high clip. This time, Jaylen Brown is in the action. Look at Derek White off the weak side. Like, the Knicks are scrambling. They're doing what they're supposed to do, but the ball just moves and there's no hesitation. And again, guarded shot, but it's cash. This time, you're going to get Jason Tatum top of the key. You give him this kind of room, good luck, right? You got to drag your help defense in. Cornette is executing on the back end. This is a clean screen. Boom, another 3. I know there's conversation about too many threes and what's happening in the league. Whether you like it or not, they're going to get the 3s up, and more times than not, they're going to hit them.
I think their balance is better right now than it was earlier in the year in terms of when to take certain threes. There were nights I watched them the first 3 months of the season when I felt like any daylight, anybody, anytime, take the first good one. You're helping teams guard you when you do that. They're not doing it as much now. And to Monica's point, they're showing a little bit more discretion of when to take those early quick ones that are semi-contested. Now they realize we've got guys that can break you down off the dribble. So that next three we're going to get on this possession is going to be a cleaner look with somebody on balance, toed up. And I think they've struck a better balance in that, which is making their offense almost unstoppable.
So boom, right? Because then you're watching the way that they've spaced the floor and you're flying around, and then you got Luke Cornett sitting at the rim and Jaylen Brown is throwing little baby lobs right in front of the rim. And so because you have to play them for the three, the space is crazy when they do decide to attack the paint. So it's just, they kill you in multiple ways.
So something you said only briefly there at the end, let's make sure we sort of underline it. The Boston Celtics are one of the two sort of bedrock franchises of the NBA. They've won more championships than anybody. What's the last time they won back-to-back titles?
1969, believe it or not. And they've won a lot of titles since then, of course. The
But
80s.
never
Back-to-back.
back.
Yeah, and this is their opportunity to do that. You're going back to Bill Russell days at what Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Joe Mazzulla are trying to do.
The point is that Larry Bird never did it, and all these teams never. The Paul Pierce, Celtics, all that they never won back-to-back. All the even if you those of you who go back, the Dave Cowens, John Havlicek Celtics of the '70s, they won a bunch of titles. They never won them back-to-back. The Celtics are trying to do something they haven't done since Russell.
Yeah, and like you're cognizant of that, but we talked to Joe Mazzulla before the game yesterday, and he said that in the room, like, because you were talking about that second year, what's different coming out of a championship off season and whatnot. And he basically was talking about how hard it is and why it's hard. Because, they haven't even done it here since 1969. That's when it kind of hit me. Like, wow, you're right. Boston won those three in the 80s with Bird, but none of those are back-to-back. Of course, the Paul Pierce teams didn't get a chance to do that either.
I'm getting a text here. It's from Cleveland Sports Talk Radio saying, hey, guys, why the hell are you just talking about the Celtics? With
I mentioned them. I mentioned the Cavs.
Well, and we led with the highlight, but so let's get into it right now, okay? So we're sitting here talking about the Celtics at their best. The Cavs have been the best team in the – well, let's just do it by conference because it's kind of hard to differentiate. Yeah. The Cavs have been the best team in the Eastern Conference from the minute the ball was thrown up in October. Why are we sitting here talking about the Celtics being the team to beat?
Because the Celtics have history in the postseason, and that gives you confidence. We don't know what this Cavaliers team is going to look like in the postseason. I will say, though, Friday prior to the Knicks playing the Cavs, I had a chance to talk with Donovan Mitchell, and he said something that was really interesting to me in the locker room as we were just checking out these highlights. He's like, I've had to sacrifice this year. And this was because Tom Thibodeau said that what he's done this year is overlooked. But he talked about understanding that he's not been able to be successful and adjusting his leadership to what this group needs. And it's largely been about setting the table as much as it is calling his number. And so while Donovan Mitchell is having a terrific year, everybody around him and the way that this unit is playing with confidence. Like there's quotes coming out of Cleveland about Evan Mobley wanting to be one of the best guys in the leagues over the next 5 years, which is like where they are in terms of a confidence standpoint. I don't think we're talking about them because we don't know what it's going to look like in the postseason, but they got the pieces.
So can I just give you a little, so I'm on my vacation, right, and it's Friday night, we're having a nice dinner, and I thought to myself, oh, the Knicks are playing the Cavs tonight on ESPN. I'm excited. I'm going to watch the second half of that game. And as we're getting the check, I looked at my phone, and it's 77-50 at halftime. So needless to say, I didn't watch the second half of that game. The Cavaliers are just running roughshod over everybody.
I was contractually obligated, so was Monica, to watch the second half of that game because I would have turned it off as well. And here's the problem. We all got excited about that matchup. This was, the Knicks hadn't played the Cavs since October. And actually, the Knicks were up by 15 in that game before they lost late in that game. So it felt like it would be competitive. And the Knicks have owned Cleveland in Cleveland. So this set up to be a game for everybody to be excited about. The only problem is everyone else was excited. The Knicks were not. They did not show up for that game. That's alarming.
Listen, the Cavaliers are legit, and it's for three very specific reasons of why I think this is a different scenario than last year with the Cavaliers. I think, first of all, they just picked up DeAndre Hunter. I think that's one of the most underrated acquisitions in the league this year, and they specifically got him for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And by the way, it doesn't hurt. He also knocks down threes at a 40% clip. So you answered two things: your style, the way you like to play offensively, and a guy that can deal with these big forwards on your number one team you're trying to get past. I think the emergence of Ty Jerome has really been one of the stories in the league this year, too, and you saw it last night. He controlled the game in the fourth quarter for the Cavaliers. And then the last thing is the emergence of Evan Mobley. He's a different player offensively with his confidence, his aggressiveness. So you add all that up. This is a team that lost in the second round last year to the Celtics. This is a significantly better team. And I think, for me, they're absolutely looking the Celtics dead in the eye. I think they are capable of beating them, but you lean to the Celtics because of the experience.
We'll do the West a little bit later. As far as the East, it's Cleveland and Boston. and they're not going to like hearing this in New York, then it's a group of other teams that we find. And then you mentioned the Celtics, who also blew away the Knicks yesterday.
It's just a different level of focus that you've seen out of this team over the last few weeks. They come out very intent, very serious. It's business. They're not a team that's going to let you kind of play with them because they're going to allow that to happen. That's what they did some games in the regular season. You're seeing a team now that smells the springtime, and they're thinking about being a back-to-back champion.
I would like to smell the springtime.
I love that. That was great.
But that's a different conversation. They were having a good one yesterday on NBA Countdown, and our Big Perk had a big prediction about Boston.
And your 2025 NBA champions are the Boston Celtics.
You're calling it now.
All right, well, let's just go home.
February 23rd.
OKC is not beating them. The Nuggets
Eastern.
are not beating them. The Cavs are not beating them. The Knicks damn sure are not beating them. And the Milwaukee Bucks are not beating the Boston Celtics. When they want to turn it up another level defensively, it's no team, not the Knicks and nobody else around the league, that's going to challenge them.
So, I mean, that's an interesting one. God bless Wendy. He just sneaks in there with that. Well, let's just go home. I used this analogy earlier. Like in golf, anyone might win on any given week because it's almost impossible for everyone to play their best all the time. If everyone plays their best, Scottie Scheffler's the best player. If everyone plays their best, let's just live in the East. Are the Celtics the best team?
Yeah, I think that's probably the fairest way to put it. If they do play their top game every night, yes, I think the Boston Celtics are the team. The thing is, teams don't do that, right? So now the question is...
But in the playoffs, generally, they do.
No, not every night.
Or closer.
The question for me is, are there teams now that have closed the gap with them over a year ago? And I think that's clear in Oklahoma City and Cleveland. So that's why, for me, look, he might end up being right, Perk, right? And we all might, if we had to pick right now, you force me, might all pick the Celtics, and we might be right. But to say and dismiss Cleveland and Oklahoma City, to me, I think just get ahead of yourself. Both of those teams do not have weaknesses.
Legs, this is too rational. We need takey.
Yeah,
we need NBA today. Get up. Celtics are champs now. But I think you're absolutely right. And I, obviously, with the Knicks this weekend, having a chance to see Cleveland up close and personal again, and then seeing Boston in turn on Sunday, Cleveland is right there. And I think that would be a really, really exciting series. You give Boston the edge based on their experience. And you guys, we were sitting post-game yesterday with my terrific radio partner, Tyler Murray, and kind of just debriefing. And there is something about the Celtics that's like reminiscent of what the Warriors were able to do in terms of guys entering their prime and really starting to play best basketball and the sustainability of them being able to win.
That's an interesting take. You were talking about the Warriors. So we're talking, and we just came off an NFL run where we were talking about dynasty, right? I don't know exactly what it takes to qualify as a dynasty in the NBA right at this moment. The Celtics certainly do, but they haven't had it since the 60s. Are we sitting here, meaning they haven't won back-to-back championships since the 60s? You're saying you think we could be entering an era of the Celtics? I
don't know if it will go more than two, because I think Cleveland is right there. I think OKC is right there, depending on what happens with Houston. I think we still can't sneeze on Denver. Like, I think the East is going to retool. Like, we're still chasing the Celtics. But in terms of those guys being, 26, 27, like, keeping the group together and having a chance to run it back, the continuity, that matters.
It's continuity. And one thing we're going to find out if playoffs go the way we think it's going to go, the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals are not going to face a team like the Pacers. You know, remember that last year? They played the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. That wasn't really a true test. If they play the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals, that'll be a bigger test because there's a team that's going to be built just like them to beat them.
Well, look, I mean, the reality of it is that people in Cleveland right now are throwing things at their television screen, and they're saying to Tim Legler, from the minute the ball was thrown up in October this year, from the very first jump ball we had in the NBA this year, the Cavaliers have been the best team in the East. Is that not? Do we not feel that way? How is that?
Well, there's two different ways to look at it. The body of work to this point, yes, that's the best body of work. That's the cleanest sheet, right? That's what Cleveland has established. But now, we're not talking about that. We're talking about right now how the Boston Celtics look, and that's what we're comparing them to. His point is great, because here's what I have felt about the Boston Celtics. It's not taking anything away from what they did. They were the best team in the league last year. They didn't take the best punch this league has, because of the injuries to some teams. Like they didn't have to face a Giannis. The Knicks were decimated. You get the Pacers in the conference finals, and even like Dallas surprised some people that they were the team you saw at the end in the West. Here's what I'm saying that. If Kristaps Porzingis goes down this year, like he did last year, Now there are teams ready to gobble that up. And last year there weren't teams that could overcome that. A team like Dallas in the finals when Porzingis misses 2.5 games. That will be different this year. So you need to stay healthy because teams have narrowed that gap with Boston.
And did we learn about the Celtics last year that them getting over the top and finally breaking through and winning this championship that had eluded them 2 years ago in the finals, and then the year after that, remember what Jimmy Butler in Miami did to them, embarrassed them in the conference finals. So did they get that necessary experience to now give them the confidence to win? Or in this playoffs, are we going to see that team that, as we've said, sometimes they just don't give you everything they've got? That's going to be the test to see if they do face some of the better teams in the playoffs.
I want to go back to Monica's Warriors analogy because there's a similarity in the way they move the ball. You had a great tape for us this morning. The Warriors were as good as anybody when they were at their best. The ball never touches the ground. The ball is constantly moving, and the Celtics seem to have a little bit of that.
100%. The ball moves with a snap, crackle, and pop for sure. And when we talk about those Warriors team, we forget how good those defenses were. Same thing with the Celtics. But let's stick with the offense here. Count the dribbles. 1. I think we're going to get 2 from Jaylen Brown here. 1, 2, bop, swing, right? And this was a good defensive possession by the Knicks, but they are so confident in what they do, and they find one another so quickly, right? Even the best defenses, you can't outrun the pace of the basketball usually. Here, Jaylen Brown, Derek White gets out of the way. You are spreading the floor again. They've got 4 guys around the perimeter, and they're allowing their dribble penetration to create a little bit. That is a well-contested shot. Derek White has had an all-star caliber year. Like, he's another weapon for these guys. Here, you draw 2. Jason Tatum in the middle of the floor. Luke Cornett, terrific screen here. OG Anunoby, no chance, can't get out there. Who's that? Jaylen Brown. It's another 3. And these were 3s from that ball game. They also did a great job of scoring in the paint and scoring in transition.
Derek White had 19, 9, and 7 in that game, and it's like you don't mention it until you're getting ready to you're rolling the credits. You're going off the air. Oh, by the way, Derek White had 19, 9, and 7 as your 3rd best player. That's a great tape. It's a great point, and I saw it sitting there like immediately when they came onto the floor. Just the look in their eye, their demeanor, and the way they carved the Knicks up in the first 6-8 minutes of that game. And they don't run anything complicated. Boston runs high ball screen, and they know that you can't ultimately keep the ball in front because of who we have, and everybody on the floor can shoot. How are you going to defend this screen, and how are you going to make these adjustments? And they just didn't think the Knicks were going to be able to do it, and ultimately they couldn't.
So.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.